Hand cannons are currently the go-to primary weapon choice for most players in the Crucible, and there's really no debate. I posted a poll in the community portion of my channel asking the question, what primary weapon type do you use the most? And of the 400 plus people that responded to that poll, the overwhelming favorite was in fact hand cannons. So with some of the best hand cannons being brought into the loot pool this season, I wanted to provide some tools that can help you in your search for your best hand cannon role. Now, I'm not here to sell you on what the best role is because quite frankly, your playstyle will be the determining factor in answering that question. So with there being so much time left in the season and Bungie likely not making any drastic changes to the performance of hand cannons, let's try to find you the best role to get on your new hand cannons. Now, rather than jumping back and forth between the different PvP perks, I went ahead and placed all of them that I consider to be top tier PvP perks in different categories based on what type of benefit they give us. We're going to start with the category of perks that provide a damage boost to our weapons. There are three choices here that give roughly the same benefit: Rampage, Kill Clip, and Swashbuckler. After getting a kill with a weapon that has Rampage, you gain a damage boost of about 10% to your weapon. If you continue to get kills with that weapon, you will gain additional stacks of Rampage until you reach 3 stacks, at which point your damage boost will be close to a 33% increase. Kill Clip gives you a damage buff once you reload your weapon after getting a kill. The obvious difference here is that in order to get the Rampage buff, all you have to do is get a kill, whereas with Kill Clip, you have to get a kill and then reload your gun in order to activate. A minor inconvenience, but an inconvenience nonetheless. Swashbuckler is the other damage boosting perk, and it states that getting melee kills or kills with this weapon increase its damage. Now, Swashbuckler is similar to Rampage in that we gain stacks of it after getting a kill. We actually get 5 stacks with Swashbuckler, but the increase in damage percentage is lower than what we would get with Rampage. Swashbuckler is about 6%, Rampage is about 10%. To make up for that, Swashbuckler has a duration of 4.5 seconds compared to Rampage, which only lasts for 3.5 seconds. Now, of the 3 most recent legendary hand cannons that have been introduced this season, Rampage is actually the only PvP worthy damage boosting perk that is capable of rolling on each of these weapons. If you're a prominent 120 hand cannon user, then I would 100% be trying to find a 120 hand cannon that is capable of rolling with Rampage or Swash. The main reason is because with just 1 stack of either of these perks activated, your 120 hand cannon will be able to 2-tap any guardian that has a resilience stat lower than 50. Truthfully, any hand cannon with Rampage seems to be the go-to meta option for PvP these days. If you're grinding for any of the 3 new hand cannons, I highly suggest you keep any drops you get with Rampage. The next perk category we'll be covering today is what I would call the range increasing category. I know, creative, right? These perks will either give us a direct stat boost to our range, or they will provide some type of boost to our hand cannon's effective range. I'll explain that in a second. The first perk is one of the more notorious hand cannon perks, Rangefinder. Rangefinder has been reworked a few times over the years, ever since the days of Destiny 1. In the game's current state, aiming a hand cannon that has Rangefinder will increase the effective range and zoom magnification of that weapon. So basically, we are getting about a 10% boost to our hand cannon's zoom magnification. Now, that may not seem very significant, but here's what the difference is. In this example, I have 2 Dire Promise hand cannons that have the exact same range stat of 50. One of them has the Rangefinder perk, and the other one does not. We can see that for the hand cannon that does not have the Rangefinder perk, damage falloff begins at about 29.5 meters. Now, when I switch to the one that does have the Rangefinder perk, we see that damage falloff begins at about 32.5 meters. To put it simply, Rangefinder makes it so that when we ADS, or aim down sight, our target appears closer to us, which in the Destiny sandbox means we get an increase to the effective range of our hand cannon. The next range increasing perk I want to go over is Killing Wind, which says that final blows with this weapon grant increased mobility, weapon range, and handling for a short duration. So anytime we get a kill with a weapon that has this perk, we are getting a stat increase to our range, mobility, and overall handling. Killing Wind lasts for about 6 seconds and gives us a range stat increase of 20, a mobility stat increase of 50, and a handling stat increase of about 40. One of the nice things about Killing Wind is that it does not have an activation cooldown. So if you were to activate Killing Wind by getting a kill, and then you get a second kill 3 seconds later, you're actually just refreshing that initial 6-second cooldown. In my opinion, this perk is especially potent on hand cannons. All 3 of the stats we get an increase for are super important to a hand cannon's lethality. If you're someone who relies a lot on their movement, this might be a perk you want to seek out for any of your hand cannon rolls. The final range increasing perk I want to mention is Opening Shot. Opening Shot is pretty self-explanatory in that the perk improves the accuracy and range on the opening shot of attack. It gives about a 5 to 12% increase in range and about a 25% increase in bonus accuracy on the first shot, and has an activation cooldown of about 3.1 seconds after not firing a bullet. I believe the 5 to 12% they are referring to is that the range buff increasingly scales depending on what the range stat of your weapon is. But what does the 25% increase in accuracy mean? Drewskis is another Destiny YouTuber who has done some crazy in-depth analysis on how hand cannon accuracy actually works. I won't be able to do it justice, but I'll try to break it down as simply as I can. Hand cannons have a hypothetical cone at the end of their barrel. The wider the cone is, the more room there is for error when not completely standing still and shooting the gun. The tighter the cone is, the less likelihood there is for a bullet to stray away from where you are aiming. To put it simply, the tighter the cone at the end of your barrel, the more accurate your hand cannon will be. That's what the 25% increase in accuracy is referring to. It's referring to the tightening or shrinking of the cone by 25%. I hope all that makes sense. So after all of that, the unfortunate news is that Opening Shot is actually only available on one of the new hand cannons this season, the bottom dollar. The 3.1 second activation cooldown is kind of a bummer, but this is still a very solid perk for hand cannons if you're someone who tactfully shoots their weapon. The next category we'll cover today is what I call the handling booster. It's the category of perks that increases your weapon handling. So we do have some perks overlapping with a couple of these categories. If you remember from earlier, Killing Wind gave us a boost not only to our range, but also our mobility and handling. So I've placed Killing Wind in this category as well. The next perk in this category is Moving Target, which increases our movement speed and target acquisition when moving while aiming down sights with this weapon. Statistically speaking, Moving Target increases our movement speed by about 6% while we are aiming down sights, and it also adds plus 10 to our aim assistance. Any perk that increases aim assistance, especially if you play on controller, is always a good perk to use for PvP. The 6% increase in movement speed while aiming down sight is the intriguing part for me though. Most of the time, good players will not be standing completely still when they are engaging in a fight. And the main reason is a moving target is harder to hit than a stationary one. So if you can both evade and shoot at the same time, you are increasing your lethality. However, with Moving Target, you're actually increasing the speed at which you can strafe from side to side while you are aiming down sight. While most people who don't have Moving Target will be stuck moving at the base strafe speed, you will be significantly outmaneuvering them while also strafing. Next time you're in a patrol area, I want you to try it out and see if you can tell the difference between having and not having the perk. Then come into the Discord server and let me know if you can tell a difference. The next 2 perks are also very notorious in the Destiny sandbox, and those 2 perks are Snapshot and Quick Draw. I won't spend a ton of time on these perks because they're pretty self-explanatory and most people know how they work. Quick Draw makes it so your weapon can be drawn almost instantly by increasing your handling stat up to the max of 100. Snapshot makes it so you can aim down sights much faster. The interesting thing about Snapshot though is that it stacks with your weapon's handling stat. So a weapon that has a handling stat of, let's say 30, will actually ADS slower than the same weapon that has a handling stat of 70. Just something to keep in mind if you're looking for a roll with Snapshot. The last category before we get to our bonus category is what I call the stat boosting category. These are the kinds of perks that will statistically change the numerical values of our weapon. Again, as I said earlier, there would be some overlap with some of these categories. Killing Wind is one of those perks in this category, as it adds a stat bump to our range, mobility, and handling. If you can't tell already, Killing Wind is a pretty solid perk to have. The next perk I want to talk about is one of my favorite perks in the entire game, Rapid Hit. I first fell in love with this perk back when Spare Rations was running rampant in the Crucible. Rapid Hit is especially effective on hand cannons due to the nature of how we use them. When you use a hand cannon, your main focus is to shoot for the head. Now, obviously this is the case for all weapons, but it's especially true for hand cannons. And the reason for that is because they reward players that are able to hit their shots. If you struggle with hitting your crit shots, then you're probably not a fan of using hand cannons because other weapons are much more forgiving. So with hand cannon users being so intentional with hitting crits, a perk like Rapid Hit is very useful, as it will continue to reward you for your accuracy by giving you a stat bump to stability and reload speed. Rapid Hit is broken down similarly to that of Rampage in that you are granted a stack for every precision hit you get. You can get up to a max of 5 stacks. At this point, you're actually adding about 54 to your reload stat and about 23 to your stability stat. Again, this is just for getting precision hits, not even getting kills, which is why I'm a big fan of this perk. As of right now, the Igneous Hammer and the Bottom Dollar are the only new hand cannons that can roll with Rapid Hit. Definitely worth the grind. The last perk in this category is another pretty simple one, and that perk is Outlaw. Outlaw significantly decreases our reload time, which is a good thing, after getting precision kills. Nothing crazy here with this perk, but if you're able to roll Outlaw on, let's say, a 120 hand cannon that might not have the greatest reload speed to begin with, it might be worth keeping so that you don't have to worry about that. Lots of potential for high DPS and PvP with Outlaw. Go nuts. Alright, I promised a bonus category, so here's the category of perks that I think a lot of people overlook as good perks for PvP. This is the underrated perk category. First, I want to talk about the perk Subsistence. Subsistence states that getting a kill will partially reload the magazine from its reserves, but it significantly reduces the reserve ammo capacity. We don't really need to worry about that last part as it's not super impactful in PvP, unless you're going on 20 plus streaks all the time, in which case, kinda sus. You won't really run into a problem of not having primary ammo. Subsistence reloads between 18 and 20% of the magazine size per kill. So if you have a base mag size of 10, you'll get 1 to 2 bullets put directly into your magazine each time you get a kill. Where I think this perk has the most potential is when it's paired with the perks Rampage and Swashbuckler. Since our damage boosting perks are activated simply by getting a kill and not having to reload, having as much ammo in our magazine as possible will really extend the amount of time we can benefit from those damage boosts. The more kills you get, the more bullets you put back into your magazine. The more bullets you have in your magazine, the more high damage bullets you can shoot after getting a kill. The synergy that Subsistence creates with those damage perks is limitless. The next perk I think people tend to overlook sometimes is Eye of the Storm. If you remember from earlier, I very briefly described how accuracy works on hand cannons. What Eye of the Storm does is it makes our weapon become more accurate and also boosts our weapon handling as our health gets lower. Those of you that have been around a while know I'm not usually a fan of perks that are only activated when you're at low health. Because why would you want to spend time being low health just to receive the benefit from a perk? But Eye of the Storm seems to give enough of a benefit that I would consider using it if I were to get one on one of my weapons. In the case where you are in the midst of a 1v1 gunfight and you're constantly dealing with flinch, having this perk come in and potentially give you the ease of use that you might need in order to overcome that flinch, I think is a really cool thing to have. The last perk that I want to talk about that I think quite a few people are overlooking is Surplus. Surplus increases the handling, reload speed, and stability of our gun for each fully charged ability that we have. That's our melee, grenade, and class ability energy. It does not take into account super energy. Basically, how it works is for each of the 3 abilities that you have fully charged, you will gain 1 stack of surplus. But the interesting thing is that if you are someone who runs an exotic armor piece that grants double of a certain ability, like Ophidius Spaith for the double melee, or Armamentarium for double nades, it won't count that second charge as an extra 4th stack, but it will count it towards the maximum stack of 3. So let's say you just used your class ability and it's currently on cooldown, but you still have 1 grenade charge and 2 melee charges. Surplus will identify that second melee charge as 1 stack of surplus, thus giving you the full benefit from the perk. So if you're someone that frequently runs an exotic that grants double of a certain ability, you'll probably reap the benefits from surplus quite a bit. What are some of the roles that you're searching for on your new hand cannons? Let's talk about it in the comments. Shameless plug for our community Discord server. Lots of chill people over there if you're looking for a place to hang out and talk about cool stuff. You can join by clicking the link in the description or the pinned comment. You can also check me out on Twitch if you want to catch us talking about all these things live. Link will also be in the description. Thank you all very much for watching. Liking the video is always appreciated. And as always, we'll see ya.